Hey everyone, welcome to another video in this series about creating a chat app in Flutter the right way. And in this video, we'll be looking at finishing up our onboarding UI so that we can save the user to the database and also upload our user profile. Now, if it's your first time here, please consider subscribing and also check out the previous videos to ensure that you are up to speed with what is happening. So let us get right into it. And the first thing I want to do is I want to create an image uploader service that will handles uploading images to our database for our user profile. So I'm just going to go right here into my data folder, and inside my data folder I'm going to create another folder and I'm going to call it services. And inside my services I am going to create that image uploader, and this will be a simple class that uses the HTTP multi-request to upload our image file. So I'm just gonna accept one parameter here, and this will represent the URL to our storage or image storage server. So inside of our constructor, and this will have only one method, and this will be a method to upload the image. So I'll accept a image file here, and then I'll upload that image via HTTP. So here first I'll create the request, which will be a multi-part request. This comes from the HTTP package, and the action will be a post action, and this will be to my URL. But since the URL is a string, I need to go ahead and parse that using the URI parse, pass in the URL in order to make that a valid URI. So I'm gonna take the request and I'm gonna take this request, I'm gonna access the files and then add the file that I want to add, which is a multi-part file. Since I'm uploading images here, it's a multi-part file, and I'm just gonna say from path, which will represent the path to the image that is on our phones that we are uploading. And I'm just gonna get the path directly from the file that is passed in this case the image file. So I'm just gonna say image path, and there we added our image to the request itself. So now we can go ahead and send that request, storing the value inside of the result variable. So I'm gonna say request send, and we'll receive the result as a stream. So if you should look here, you would see that it's a streamed response result. So what we need to do is to go ahead, and I'm just gonna check first of all if there's an error code. So in this case, if the status code is not 200, then I definitely know it's an error code, and in this case I will return null. Otherwise, since it's a response stream, I need to go ahead and fetch the response from that stream by using the response from stream utility method here. So, and pass in the result. After I get the response, what I want to do is to return the URL. So the response would suggest that the image was successfully uploaded, and I'm just gonna return the URL to that image so that the URL can be saved alongside our user information into the database. I'm just going to say response body here. So the response should return the image or the name of the image itself. Then I am going to concatenate that to the URL, to the image server, which is passed in here. And origin means that it would have the hosts. As you can see, it would have the scheme, which would be HTTP, and the host here, and also the port number. So I'm basically formulating the URL here to fetch that image when the user, when storing the image, the user profile to the database. So now that we have our image uploader, now we can go ahead and inside of our state management, I am going to create another folder and I'm going to call it onboarding. And inside onboarding, I am going to create a onboarding qubit, and I'm using qubit here instead of the block because the qubit is quite simpler, and a lot of the methods that are a part of the block I will not be using. So I'm using the onboarding qubit, which is much simpler than the block. So here I'm just gonna say onboarding qubit. This will extend qubit, and it should be of type onboarding state. So I'll need to create that state also. So this will come from the Flutter block package. So let's go ahead and create this onboarding state here. Go ahead, create my abstract class onboarding state, and I want that to extend equatable. And if you have been following along from the beginning, then what you see here should be very similar to what you have been doing so far. So onboarding, I want to create that initial state. Let's go ahead and create that, override that prop to return, since there are no variables here, just an empty array there, empty list. Let's create a loading state. Again, we'll override the prop, remove that. Return empty. Then we'll create the success state. So onboarding success. Create that method. So when we have a success here, what we want to do is to return the user. So in this case, I'm gonna create a user here. So the success state will have the user that was created in the database. So now we have our onboarding state here, different states. We can go ahead to our onboarding queue, import that, and then here for our initial, we can say we instantiate the onboarding initial state here. So for our dependencies, we want the user service and also the image uploader service, the image uploader. Let's go ahead and inject those into our constructor. So user service, so now for onboarding qubit, we want a single method also. So future void, and this method will be connect. So basically connect your session or make yourself online. So we connect with the name and also the profile image. Import from Dart.io. So now the first thing I want to do inside this qubit, once the user tries to connect, I'm just going to emit the loading state here. So we start loading, then we go ahead, after we start loading, we can go ahead and upload the image. So here we await the image uploader. Upload image, and we pass the profile image there. So after we have uploaded the image, then we can create a user object. In this case, we'll say user equal to user. The username will be the name, the photo URL will be the URL, and of course active will be true, and the last scene will be the present time. So date, time, now. So there is our user. After we have created our user, we now need to store the user to the database so that we can get the ID for that user. So I'm just going to say created user is go ahead, use the user service and connect with that user. Then we go ahead and emit the onboarding success state here, and we pass in our created user. So there we have our onboarding qubit to upload the image and create the user inside of our database. I'll also create another qubit here, and I'll call it the profile image qubit. This will handles the picking of the profile image from our image gallery and updating the profile image circular avatar here on my onboarding screen. So I'll say qubit profile image qubit. This extends again qubit of type file, since I'll be fetching a file from the image gallery. So now for my initial state, I'll just return null. So there's no file available. Again, this will have one method, and this method will be to get the image. So I'll use this pick file class, and this comes from the image picker package. That will equal to go ahead with image picker. So I'll need to instantiate the image picker here. So I'll say final picker image picker. Then I'll use that picker here to say get image, and the image source will be from the gallery, and the image quality here, I'm just gonna set that to 50. So after I have picked the image, I'll go ahead and emit the path to that image here. Of course, I'm emitting a file, so this must be file and from the picked file path. So that is my profile image qubit that we'll use to pick files, images from our image gallery, and then to update our circular avatar here with the image that we have selected. So now that we have these up and running, we can go ahead and I'll just close these. We can now create our composition root that will configure the different object dependencies and create our object graph for our application. And if you have been following me for some time, you know that I'm very fond of using the composition root design pattern rather than using some inversion of control container or a service locator. I'm not a fan of this service locator that is used. It causes a lot of tight coupling between different as parts of the application if you are not careful with what you are doing. So let us go ahead and get our composition root up. And these will be static variables and static methods. So first I want to create the dependencies. So there's a dependency on rethink DB. I'm just going to create that. There's also that connection that is needed. There's also the user service that is needed. And that's it for now. So I'll normally create this static method configure that is called, it's basically like a kind of bootstrapping the application before we start showing our screens. So I'll go ahead and instantiate rethink here and all my other dependencies. I'm just gonna make the host to be localhost. And the port will be rethink DB default port, in this case 28015. Configure our user service. Then that's it. So now we can go ahead and create our composition or static method that creates our onboarding screen. So in this case, we'll return a widget and we'll say compose onboarding UI. So in this method, we'll need our image uploader here. And for our image uploader, I'll be creating a image server on localhost, and I will just copy and paste that out. It's a simple Node.js server. I'll add the code up as a part of this, but I will not go into how to create that here. So it'll be localhost 3000 and the endpoint will be upload. I've already created this server, so I know. So I'll get my other dependencies. In this case, we want the onboarding qubit. Onboarding qubit. This will accept or use a service and the image uploader. We'll also need our profile image qubit. Then we can go ahead and create a multi-block here. So we'll have a multi-block provider that returns both our widget wrapped both with our onboarding qubit and our image qubit. So we'll set our providers here. And for our providers, we need two providers. So I'm just going to say block provider. And for the create method, we know that we have our build context and our onboarding qubit. So that's the first block provider. Then we need just copy, paste, this time our image qubit. So that's our provider. And then for the child, we want to return the onboarding screen. So that's composing our onboarding UI with all its dependencies. So now inside of our main, instead of using this here, what we'll do is to go ahead inside of our main here, and this will need to be async here. We'll go ahead and say await composition root configure. Let's see if our configure method is a static method. And in order for us to use async calls inside of our main method, we need to tell Flutter to ensure initialize. So the widget binding, so we need to say widgets Flutter binding ensure initialized. So now we can say for home composition root compose onboarding UI. Go ahead and save. So for our image server, I will create a folder here at the root and I'll call it server. And inside this server, I'll create another folder called images. And I'll also create a Node.js application. So I'll go to the terminal here. I'll change my directory into that server directory. And I'm going to say npm init to create a new Node.js application. So the package name, image server, version description, upload profile images. I want app.js to be my index. There's no test command, no repository, no keywords. That's it. So I've created that Node.js application. Now you see there's a package.json file created. So I'm just going to clear this. And then for inside my package.json file, I am going to install a few packages. So npm install, I want to install Express first as my HTTP server here. So as you can see, that now creates this node modules folder since I've installed Express 4.17.1. And I'll also install Express file upload. This will deals with uploading images. And so that's it for now. I need only those two packages, which if you look inside my package.json file, you'll see them here. So then inside my server, I'll go ahead and create that app.js file. And I'm just going to copy and paste the code here. So here is my image upload server, which basically is a Express application using Express HTTP server, the file upload package, and I simply create a endpoint that we will reference to upload our images. So we'll get the image from the requests. Then we'll create a path to store that image, in this case the directory name, followed by images, which is this folder here, and followed by profile. So I'll need to create another folder here under images called profile. And then I'll attach the upload file, the name, get the name for the upload file. Then I'll use the upload file. I'll use this method move to say move the file that is uploaded to this path. And we have a callback here that determines if there's an error or not. So if there's an error moving the file or uploading the file, then I'll send a 500 error here. Otherwise, I'll return the path to the image, which is images, profile, and the name of the image itself. And that's basically it. Then we listen here for requests on this server. So that's basically our image upload server right there. So now back to our main thing, which is the Flutter application. So now that we have configured or composed our onboarding UI here, we can go ahead inside of our UI now and get those up and running. So I want to go inside of our widgets here, inside of our onboarding widgets, and our profile upload. Then to our circular avatar here, I want to make the child here, and I'm just gonna comment that for now. And now the child will be a block builder of type profile image qubit and file. Let's import block builder, also file. So now for our builder, we want to say that return say when state equal null, so if state equal null, what I want to return is this icon right here. So I'm just gonna go ahead, remove that, use my ternary operator here to say return this profile outline images as it is right now if no image is present. Otherwise, I want to return a clip rectangle with the actual image. So here we return a clip rect here with our border radius being circular still and the child being an image. In this case, it is the image from the file that we have picked from our gallery. So now if I should rerun, then if I click, then nothing happens because I need to set up my tap function here. So inside my tap function here, what I want to do is, let's make this async. What I want to do is to get my image qubit. In this case, I can use the read method from the context. So read, give me the profile image qubit, and I can say get image. So again, I will need to restart the app all from the beginning. So let's go ahead and restart. The application crashed is that we did not give access or the necessary privileges to access our gallery. And we do that by going into the iOS folder here, inside the runner folder, and inside the info plist, we need to add these three keys. So we need to add the photo library, the camera, and also the microphone. So we need to add that, then restart. And once we've restarted, now we can click and have access to our image gallery. So we can select our images here, and it should populate the circular avatar. Also, inside of our profile image qubit, we need to check if the image is null. So in the cases where the person go here, cancel, then if we do not check if that is null, then it will throw an exception here when it tries to access the path from the null image. So check if the image is null, then return if that's the case, so that when the person cancels, it won't crash the application. So now we have our profile image. We can change, and it is uploading the circular avatar. So now go ahead and close these. Inside of our onboarding page, we will now upload the information to this server. So let us go ahead, and I'm just going to create one variable, username, and I'll set that to empty. So now inside of our custom text field, inside the onChange, I want to set my username to the value of the text field. Then inside our elevated button for the onPress method, this is where I'll write the information to the server. So let's go ahead, and first I'm gonna check for errors. I'm gonna create a method named check inputs. Then this method will return a string of errors. So I want to check if that error, if it is not empty. What I want to do if it is not empty is to show the errors on a snap bar. So go ahead and say snap bar, final snap bar, and the content will be a text. So that's the content text field with the errors. Then I'm just gonna say scaffold messenger context show snapbar, and I'll pass in this snapbar there. Otherwise, if there is no error, then I'm just gonna await connect session, and this is a method that I'll create. So let's go ahead and create both those methods. So for my checked input method, string checked inputs, then I'm gonna check if the username is empty. Then I'm just gonna add that error message to the arrow variable. So here, enter display name. Then I'm gonna check if the profile image is also null. Again, I'll have to get that from context from the profile image qubit. So I'll say context read profile image qubit get the state and check if the state is null. So if the state is null, then for my error message, I'll go ahead and append that new arrow. So new line, and I'll say upload profile image. Then I'll return the arrow. As you can see, I'm having an issue here, and the method is in the wrong place. The method is inside this method when it should be here. So context read is a part of the Flutter block library. So you'll have to go ahead and import the Flutter block library in order for that to work. So now we have our error check here. We'll just go ahead and create another method, which is connect session. So for this method, I'm just gonna get the profile image again. Just gonna get the profile image from the profile image qubit using context read. And the state variable, which holds the file. Then I'll say await context this time. I'm going to get the onboarding qubit, and again, because we're using multi-block provider here, we can access both the onboarding qubit or the profile image qubit. Connect, and I'll pass in the username and the profile image. So now our method here inside of our elevated button should be working. So let's go ahead and test that out. And before we can test anything, I will need to start that image server. So I'll go to the terminal here. I'm inside that folder, the server folder. I'll just run node app.js, and that will start the server. So started file uploader server on port 3000. So now my server is running. Let's check the validation. So if I click the button, then as you can see, my validation is not working as it should. Let's see what's happening here. I should have returned here. So once there's an error, I need to return and not the connect method. So let's try again. Now I get my error messages. Let's try setting my username here. Name. Let's try uploading that. Then nothing happened, but let's check our server to see. I go on my server here. As you can see, inside my user table, a user was created. And this is the path to the image. Image was uploaded active through user ID. So also if I check my server, if I go to my server here, go to images and profile, as you can see, the image was uploaded to my server here. You can select that and it should show the image that was uploaded there. So now what I need to do is to have a loader or spinner whenever the user loads, click the sign in button. So what I've done is to add the loader as the last element inside of our column. So I use the block builder here, and I'll block builder with the onboarding queue with the onboarding state. Then I check if the state is loading. Then I show a progress indicator here. Otherwise, I show an empty container. So again, if I should say, then we should see a loader there, and then the user is added. So again, if we check our DB, go ahead and load, then we should see 2 users now inside of our database. So that's it for this video, for connecting the dots for our onboarding UI, so we can move to our chat UI in the next series of videos. And remember to start your rethink database server, because if you do not start it, then there will be an issue, your server won't be running. So make sure to run this command right here, docker container start, and the name of your container. In this case, the name of my container is festive maintenance. So that's why I have docker container start festive maintenance. So you need to have that running so that it can access the server, and also have the image server here running inside of our server folder here. So thank you guys for watching this video. See you in the next one.